Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Clarity Gaming Weekly. This is, of course, the Masters and Grandmasters portion of the bracket. We're starting right up at the top. I'm going to put in the chat there the link to the bracket, so you guys can go check it out as well. See who the players are and what games might be coming up. We only got round of 16 and forward. Every round, though, will be best 3, so we'll have a nice variety of matches here coming up. And as we go back into our game, spawning in the bottom left, we've got our Teal Terran. He's down a game, needs to win this one to stay in the tournament. It is Killer. And spawning in the top right, we've got our red Zerg player. Hoping to close it out here, it is frostReD. PUCCASC? Pucka SC, perhaps? No, the lower bracket, or the lower league matches did not get casted. I'm the only caster here today, and we're covering the Masters and Grandmasters tournament. I do believe that there might be some YouTube uploading. I know there's some other casters that will be doing some like replay casting and uploading to YouTube and stuff. So yeah, maybe keep an eye on that. Now, we do have an SCV going for a bit of a scout here for Killer. He's actually getting there right about the time that the drone would be building a hatchery. We see here that they're actually going to converge at that hatchery. So I'm wondering if he's going to try to stop it, maybe build an engineering bay or something. And oh, the hatchery actually just sneaks down just too quick for that SCV. That's actually really annoying for Killer here because he actually sends his SCV out to do a block. That is an early SCV scout. He's not hoping to just scout his opponent early here. He wants to make sure his opponent slow down his opponent's hatchery at least a little bit, maybe even force a little mining time loss, because an SCV does beat a drone in a one-on-one duel. Now, meanwhile, Killer did go for a 1 Rax gasless opening here, so it looks like he's going to take his command center here rather quickly. And meanwhile, frostReD, as we saw, took that quick hatch and followed it up with a, looks like a 15 spawning pool there. So pretty safe play here by frostReD, not being too greedy. Cloud Kingdom actually a really popular map for 2 racks pressure. We do have an Overlord there that went for a scout for frostReD, and he actually didn't spot the command center. The command center is a little bit late here. I wonder if perhaps Killer missed a couple of SCV production cycles, because it definitely should be getting started about the time the Overlord gets there, and the Overlord already had time to check and pull back. Now, frostReD does have both his hatchery and spawning pool done, so he's going to start getting those queens up, so he can start getting the larva injects going and really give a boost into his economy. Does he get the Overlord started? Ooh, goes for an extractor and an Overlord. Nice. I always check because, I mean, I'm a top Masters player. I'm like 800 points on both EU and NA, but the 26 out of 28 when you're supposed to build that Overlord, I miss it like every single time. Recently, anyways, I've been having a lot of trouble with that, and it's been freaking me out. It's just like the worst tilt ever to be supply blocked like that, but we saw frostReD there deal with it nicely by just building an Overlord on time. We do have a command center just about to finish, and we see Killer once again going for the exact same follow-up as he did last game. He's going for the double racks into double refinery, so we're likely going to see him go for the same kind of push. And, I mean, it didn't work out too well last game just because of the nice timing of frostReD's upgrades and his creep spread. He did go up to 4 queens last game. He's going up to 4 queens this game again. And so we should see a ton of creep spread coming from him, and that makes the Marine siege tank pushes so hard to pull off, especially early on when Killer is only going to have 2 or 3 siege tanks like we saw last game. So there's the factory on the way for Killer. We should also see some reactors and tech labs here get started on these barracks as soon. Get that stim started here. Meanwhile, frostReD getting that metabolic boost, still mining some gas, but mostly focusing on those drones for now. And he's actually going to have to go either for some more extractors or go for a 3rd hatchery here soon. He's going to just start floating minerals as he's only got 2 hatcheries of production. And it turns out that even with perfect larva injects, it's pretty difficult to spend a good saturation on 2 bases just on drones and Zerglings. So there they go. The extractors will go down. That'll, of course, take tons of drones. That's 4 drones per extractor group there. That won't be mining minerals anymore. So that'll balance his economy a bit more. And we do see him taking the lair, the Baneling Nest, and now starting both of the evolution chambers. So this actually looks like a shot-for-shot repeat of the game on Metropolis. And the key difference, though, is that on this map, it's a much smaller map, so it's not going to take quite as long for frostReD to push out across the map and put aggression onto his opponent Killer, and conversely, it's also going to be easier for him to fall back and defend against the drops that were so effective for Killer last game. So I'm really worried here for Killer. He's got his flying V of Marines there. They're ready to go in and get the goal, but I mean, he's just going for the exact same build here. We see he's going up into those medevacs. Oh, I do take it back. This is a slightly different build here. We see that he is going for that stim play again, but this time around he didn't start siege tank production quite as quickly, instead deciding to go for medevacs. And this is actually a nice, just really minute variation that Killer's throwing in. He saw that his opponent was having a really hard time dealing with drops in the last game, so now instead of trying to go for a Marine siege tank pressure, which frostReD was able to deal with rather easily, he's going to go for quicker medevacs and try to go for stim drops and try to pick apart his opponent instead. So that's actually a great decision there by Killer, and it's really just the smallest thing. He opened exactly the same. The only difference is that when his factory finished, instead of starting a starport and building a tech lab on the factory to go for siege tanks, he just built a reactor with the factory and started a starport, allowing him to get those much quicker medevacs. So cool, just like, I really want to stress how small of a variation that is, but how big of a difference here it is going to make, because it's going to be stim drop play here for Killer instead of a Marine siege tank pressure, and you've got to defend against both of those here in a different manner, I guess I should say. Back at home, +1/+1 here is about 3/4 of the way done for frostReD. He's also getting the infestation pit quite a bit quicker. Centrifugal hooks, the Baneling speed there on the way. Great creep spread starting out here across the middle. His third base, though, is a little lackluster, and that's actually the most likely location of an attack. So there you go, using those creep tumors, starting to spread that creep a bit more. Love to see the Queens go start working over there, though, just to make sure, because again, as we see here, Killer is moving out towards this third base, and that's where you're going to get assaulted most of the time, is at the fourth base and the third base. So the creep spread, most important in these locations. Now we do have a third command center here for Killer, just about to wrap up. The Overlord of frostReD, did it spot it? No, it didn't, but it does spot a bunker. So that's actually interesting there, and that should be rather telling to frostReD that a third base is going down. And that makes it really greedy play here for Killer, which I, again, really appreciate, because last game, every time Killer was dropping, frostReD was pulling his entire army back home to defend. So as long as Killer here just keeps these Marines alive, doesn't lose them, he's going to be able to do a great job. And here he goes with a ton of stim Marines there. He had 25 of them. He just takes down that hatchery like it was nothing, and by the time the Zerglings and Banelings show up, these Marines are already loaded into medevacs, and they are going for a little bit of a party in the main base. Two of the medevacs here will fall back. Only one medevac in the end will go up into that main base, and Zerglings do get there almost immediately, but huge move by frostReD, takes out the hatchery, whereas he himself just finished his orbital over here at this third base, and he's starting to get that siege tank production going as well. Now this creep spread, though, I was saying how this creep spread, you know, I don't like the positioning because it's not really in a defensive manner, right? This is where you're going to be defending most of the time, and he's not spreading creep there, but it's going to be really effective offensively. We do see there a scan going down, the Marines trying to clean up as much of the creep tumors as they can, but they don't even clear up half of it. Most of the creep tumors here are still active and continue to spread creep, and in mere moments here, he's going to have creep right up into his opponent's third base. He's going to be able to engage offensively on creep, which is of course really nice. Now, oh man, huge siege tank volleys there going down on the Zerglings. These siege tanks do not have +1 though, so right now they're not one-shotting Zerglings. That's actually really important. Zerglings have 35 HP, siege tanks do 35 damage, however, +1 carapace does save them there in every situation. So we do see a 4th base on the way for frostReD, also getting that hive up as his +2/+2 is finishing. Meanwhile, back at home here, taking a look at Killer's upgrades, he just started +2/+2, so it actually ends up being here a kind of similar game, in the slight difference though that frostReD did lose his 3rd base, but here comes a straight up frontal attack for Killer. He's only got 3 siege tanks here, and there's a lot of Zerglings and Infestors with just a couple of Baneling support there for frostReD, so I feel like he can really engage this army nicely. And Killer here just spotted that his opponent took a 4th base. He's going to set up his siege tanks here on the high ground to attack, and meanwhile the army here of frostReD was completely out of position, and that's something that frostReD here is just suffering from. He has not had good map vision, which makes him out of position here rather often for these engagements. But here we go. The Zerglings do swarm in. The Infestors getting some fungal growth down, and everything just gets cleaned up quickly. Marines, though, did split off, and they're pushing for this 3rd base. Hatchery down to 500 HP. Zerglings trying to get in there. Down go the transfuse. There's one more transfuse, and indeed the hatchery will stay alive. Fungal growths go down here, and all of these medevacs will get taken out. The Marines are getting dropped, but they die so quick to those Zerglings. More fungal growths need to go down here on these medevacs, or perhaps the Queen will just eat away at them nice and slowly, and indeed there they will. A couple of medevacs here are left near that 4th base. A couple of Marines here trying to clear up some of this creep, and they've actually done a pretty good job of it. We see there's no creep tumors here left anywhere near the Terran's base. Even more scans going down here to clean those up. But meanwhile, again, the entire army of Killer did get taken out, and neither the 3rd nor the 4th did get taken out. So frostReD actually in a pretty solid position right now. He's even got 3/3 on the way. Ultralisk Cavern coming, the Adrenal Glands upgrade, that's 20% extra attack speed for the Zerglings. And meanwhile, 2/2 isn't even done yet here for our Terran player. And here we go, frostReD charging in there. Can he get the crucial fungals onto the Marines here? The Banelings are crushing through, and wow, that is cost efficient. Look at that units lost tab, 7k for the Terran and about 4,600 here for the Zerg. The Zerg is losing a lot of Infestors right now though. That is painful, but the infested Terrans here are just cleaning up that SCV count, and the Zerglings cleaning up the Marines. And I mean, with the 3rd base there cleared out, 13 SCVs killed. The income tab here is telling the story of this game. Lots of lost mining time here for our Terran, but he did even up that quite a bit there by taking out all those Infestors. frostReD, they're not protecting them quite as much as he'd need to, and in fact, he hasn't gotten Burrow, so that's actually something that would really hurt. Meanwhile, Viking here looks like he's gotten 3 Overlord kills just flying across the map, trying to keep frostReD's vision as low as possible, but here comes a push from Killer. He's got what looks like 4 siege tanks total here in this army, so that's actually a good amount of siege tanks, but his bio forces are just a little low, and oh no, the siege tanks were not sieged up in time. The Zerglings get up close and personal. Fungal growths go down. The Marines get cleaned up. One medevac here does load up and save a bunch of these Marines, and actually ends up killing quite a handful of drones there. 6 drones killed, so really being as cost efficient as he can with these units, but now the Marines there will get cleaned up by the rallying Zerglings. No drops happening. Nice position here of the Spine Crawler and Spore Crawler for frostReD, making it difficult for Killer to use any drops like he did in that last game. So now we do see a bunch of drones getting transferred to some new bases. Chitinous plating on the way. That's going to be +2 armor to all the Ultralisks, and there they are, 4 of them joining into this battle. Zerglings go for the engagement. There is a 4th command center up, but the wall off there does seem to dissuade frostReD, and he is going to pull back at least for now. He definitely should be engaging this 3rd base at the very least, though. Really wants to stop that mining because we're at the 18-minute mark, so that means that the main bases are pretty much mined out. Oh, great fungal growth, great Baneling there, and in fact the orbital command goes down. It was never lifted up. This orbital command's either going to have to get canceled or it's likely going to go down as well. No, frostReD does decide to pull back those few Marines and Marauders there, scaring them a bit, and there was actually a lot of reinforcing units here coming as well, so I can pretty much agree with that. Meanwhile, we do have the minerals here starting to just disappear for Killer. He lost that 3rd base location. He's only got 6 mineral patches here, and they're pretty low on resources in total. And meanwhile, we do have a big engagement happening here in the middle. Now, there aren't many Infestors for fungal growth, so these Marines and Marauders should be able to kite. The problem is, are there enough of them? The siege tank here actually getting some good shots. It's not getting focus fired down, but finally the Ultras get up close and personal, and it will go down. These Ultras super low. They need to go back home, get a couple of transfuses to help if they they can. But the army here of frostReD continuing to get re-macroed out. He's got 6 Infestors on the way, an Ultralisk, tons of Zerglings here just popped out, and he should be able to hold this pressure here from Killer. Killer did just land his 3rd orbital, the one that was right here at his 3rd base, so he's going to be able to restart mining there. We see him transferring a ton of SCVs, but meanwhile, the main army here all gets lifted up into the Medivacs, and I mean, he actually even accidentally drops a couple of them there, and oh no, the Medivac with the siege tank does get taken out. Killer now at 114 supply to the 194, pretty much just constant maxed out frostReD here, as he actually still has enough of a bank that he could easily finish off that supply. The Zerglings here do run right up into the natural. The supply depots were not lifted in time. The Infestors here coming forward. I don't think they have any fungals. No, they don't. But the Ultralists here, even with the Marine Marauder spread, are just crushing through while the Zerglings just go after that production. And we see units die as they pop out. frostReD takes the game, and that means that he will win here.